This movie holds a special place in my heart because it really sends out a message to kids like me, skinny 90-pound weaklings, that one day we may be chosen to go to a super soldier program and become super buff. I'm still waiting. Captain America the First Avenger is directed by Johnston, written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. This stars Chris Evans, Hugo Weaving, Haley Atwell, Sebastian Stan, and Tommy Lee Jones. Captain America the First Avenger takes place in World War II, and we have this little skinny kid named Steve Rogers who keeps trying to enlist in the army, but he can't because he's physically unqualified. However, some people who are working behind the scenes on this super soldier program see that he has a lot of heart, and they choose him and they pretty much turn him into Captain America. But him becoming Captain America doesn't necessarily mean he gets to see action immediately. Like, people don't really trust him and whatnot. Now, I'm a fan of how they place this movie in like the Phase One chronology. Like, they started out with the Iron Man, the science movies, and then they ended with Captain America before going to the Avengers. I'm a fan of that because I don't know, like Captain America, I guess is supposed to be like the captain. I mean, I guess that's why he's named Captain America. I don't know if it's like that in the comics. I don't read the comics, but I like how he was the second to the last one. I feel like he embodies that spirit that will carry on to the Avengers. He starts that momentum. And Captain America: The First Avenger is also very unique in that among all these Marvel movies, it's the only one that's really like a period film, and you can kind of tell Marvel is just dying to make a period film because they do it well. And thanks to its uniqueness and a bunch of other things that went well, this is actually a very good step up from like the past three Marvel movies. It's very solid. I don't think it's like great just yet. It's not as great as the first Iron Man still, but it is a very good movie. First of all, before I say anything else, gotta talk about skinny Steve Rogers because that guy was skinny. What really surprises me about the VFX here was that they didn't superimpose someone else's Chris Evans' face onto a skinny dude. They reduced his body size or something, and that sounds even harder to me. And they did it really really well because I was trying to look for holes in the visual effects, but they did it pretty well. A lot of other visual effects in this movie look really good also, but I really really like how the Captain America movie or movies, counting the Winter Soldier coming out soon, I like how they kind of take pride in the fact that among all the Marvel movies, they really have the most practical effects, and these practical effects are used very well. And in terms of the look for this movie, I think Marvel really was dying to make like a World War II movie, and they really really do it well because World War II always seems to inspire like really good looking things. As violent as that event was, as terrible as it was, filmmakers have managed to kind of capture this sort of ironic beauty in it. And at least it's really refreshing from what we've been getting since the past, like how many years, from Iron Man up to Thor. Here it really has this old school feel, not just in the visuals but like in the movie itself. And like I mentioned just a while ago, I really like how they use a lot of practical effects. For one, Red Skull is in this movie, and I like how he wasn't like a CGI face. They really put this red kind of mask makeup thing on Hugo Weaving's face, and it looked really effective. I mean, it wasn't actually a skull, but you could buy the fact that his face turned into that. Costume design overall is nice. The Hydra costumes, while not necessarily, really innovative or anything, I think they do fit well with the era. And I really like how they did the Captain America costume because they do kind of make fun of the original design with the wings in the head and the it's made of cloth. They make fun of that, and then later on it does turn into something that's more watchable and more realistic. Now, there's something about the cinematography in this movie that really sets it apart from the other Marvel movies. It looks like it has a slightly higher frame rate in some parts. It looks like Collateral, that movie by Michael Mann, and I don't know, I can't put my finger on it, but it really just feels more realistic. Now, moving away from visuals onto sound, the sound design here is actually overall very, very good. World War II again gives a chance for sound designers and sound editors, sound mixers to really just, you know, do a really good job in combining all these different sounds. And this isn't just World War II; it is historical fiction. So you have that whole Hydra element, and the sound design there with the more fictional elements really do blend well with the real elements. There's also a very good score in this movie, surprisingly, by none other than Alan Silvestri. I mean, Marvel is owned by Disney now. Of course, they'd get someone like Alan Silvestri. And I don't know, this kind of good music really, like World War II seems to inspire really good music. And, it's nice to see that good things can come out of like really terrible situations like war. I think Captain America is the only movie out of the five that have come out at this point to really have like a theme song. Like when you hear it in the movie, you really know that this is Captain America's theme song. And I also like, I'm not talking about Star Spangled Band though, although I do like that song also. And I don't know, it was just used in a nice propaganda way. Now, my favorite thing about this movie is the plot. Like, I am a huge fan of this plot because I think it's just constructed so well. I really, really like how, it's about a skinny dude who becomes bigger and stuff. And by the end of the movie, they really make it a point to show that it's not his strength or anything, it's really his heart that made a difference. I also like how this kind of ties into the other Marvel movies, especially Thor and Iron Man, like in a really subtle way, because they have Howard Stark in this movie, and the whole Thor thing comes into play with the Tesseract, and the references to Nordic gods and stuff. And I just like how that is kind of believable because there's all this conspiracy about the Nazis using weird experiments and stuff, and and I also really really like how the movie kind of turns into propaganda territory. Like they show that Captain America is being used for propaganda, and it's very self-referential also. Like they finally were able to include an actual Marvel comic inside the Marvel movies, and I just really like that segment in the movie where it's just Captain America being misused as propaganda because it is very realistic when you think about it. And in terms of characters, like this really is Captain America's story. I mean, all the other characters are, I think, well written enough, but they are, of course, supporting roles. And Captain America, like Steve Rogers, is such a really great character because he has so much heart and he's so selfless. And like at this point, I think he's the only one in the roster of the Avengers who really has this purity about him. And they don't make it like he's like a pushover. He's a tough dude. He's just he's got a really beating heart down there. And I was also surprised to see the dialogue here is actually very funny, especially Tommy Lee Jones. Tommy Lee Jones is really, really funny in this movie. But overall, like dialogue, I really like how it's very personal. They don't make it like this huge, big scale war movie because it's not really about that. It's really about Captain America and this struggle he's going through, and very personal. And at this point, I think it's redundant to say that Marvel has always cast their actors well, especially their leads. And Chris Evans makes for a great Captain America here. I know some people who might disagree, but I think he's great because he's huge. Okay, he's huge, but he looks so nice. Also, I mean, not nice physically. I mean, yes, but he looks like a nice guy. Again, he really captures like the struggle he's going through. And when you just kind of concentrate on his face, you do still see that skinny guy from Brooklyn. Of course, great casting all around. Like seriously, every single actor in this movie is so good. Like even if they appear in like small roles, Stanley Tucci especially, and like I mentioned, Tommy Lee Jones and Sebastian Stan, Haley Atwell even. Like I think her relationship with Captain America was believable. In terms of the direction from Joe Johnston, I think he did use a good amount of camp in this movie, like just enough, I think, because I think that kind of demanded it because Captain America is such a campy character. His name alone is very campy, and I think he was able to infuse that that level of camp in the movie. I also like how the action is very well directed and very practical also, and I like that. And in the end, the heart really comes out. Like I really attribute that to the director. Like he was really able to kind of tug my heartstrings, and I realized that this is the first Marvel movie so far that really kind of made me sort of emotional at certain things that happen near the end. But like I said, Captain America: The First Avenger isn't great just yet. It's not doesn't reach that level. For one, I think that some of the campy parts they don't always work all the time. Like for one, the visual effects aren't seamless. Like there's a lot of green screens, really obvious. It does take away from some of the moments where you're supposed to be feeling, intense emotions, and you just see like green screens. Like okay, it's kind of fake. And also, like, what's up with Hydra saluting like that? It's just really, really ridiculous. Like, I rewatched it, and it was just still funny to me. It didn't feel imposing. Hydra does not feel imposing in this movie. I also feel like this movie kind of goes by a bit too fast near the end. I kind of understand because they really did have to build up his character. But when you get to the parts of the action stuff, they really fast forward through it. And while I understand that choice, I just wish it didn't have to be that way because it does feel like it reaches the end a bit too fast. And here we go again with problems with Marvel villains. Now, don't get me wrong, I think Red Skull is actually a really good villain here. Just that he's so severely underused. Like, we really should have seen more of this guy. I mean, not necessarily fighting, on the battlefield, because I know, like, generals don't do that. But just to spend more time with Red Skull, find out what he's all about, you pretty much know him skin deep, although Hugo Weaving plays him really well. But in the end, Captain America: The First Avenger is still a pretty good movie, and it is like pretty much the most unique Marvel movie at this point. And it's a great like final stepping stone to the Avengers because, like I said, it has that heart and kind of carries over to the Avengers. I mean, I don't know, it's just nice setup also. So yep, that's my review of Captain America, the first Avenger. What do you guys think of it? Have you read the comics? What do you think is better? Do you think they did a good adaptation of it? Whatever you guys thought, whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment and let's have a conversation.